is no longer the #1 problem. They are.
Can you get my kitty cat out of the tree?
No problem, ma'am.
Police Academy.
Hijinks, hilarity, highly questionable behavior, and of course, High Tower. We're talking movies, we're talking Police Academy, starring Steve Guttenberg, Kim Cattrall, and Michael Winslow, directed by Hugh Wilson. Drop that stereo before I blow your goddamn nuts off, asshole.
Do 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 do. Classic theme music. Don't move, dirtbag! But actually, I want to bring another one specifically to you, Scott. To me, marriage is it's a sacred institution. So, tell me, do you and your wife do a doggy style, or what? Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like That Movie? And at the advice of our producer, we're still drinking. That quote, by the way, is a quote about being doggy style. That is not a question to you, Scott. That said, take us away.
I fucking knew you were going to use that quote. Like the minute I'm like, here's the quote Kris is going to use. But yeah, like all I got to say is you got to kind of fucking love the 80s, eh? It's the foundation of the films today. It's like where everything's now a fucking franchise, where we had Saw movie every year or a Paranormal Activity every year recently. Growing up, we had a Police Academy movie every year, and then a Saturday morning cartoon show in between.
And it actually had a TV show, I believe. Did it not?
Yeah, like I think in the 90s after the movie, like the last movie aired, I think they tried it as a TV show. But
Right.
Yeah, man, that's the thing. Like this isn't my favorite out of any of the actual series.
Really?
But no, it's not.
It's well, I mean that's a good segue for me because I mean on Rotten Tomatoes it only has a 55 critic rating and a 64 in the audience, but it's the highest ranking on that fucking list. You know what I mean? And it's not on Scott's top list. Wait, I don't want to talk too much about the entire franchise because there's 6-7 movies in the franchise. I mean, there's Police Academy 1 through 6, and then when they go to Russia is just when they go to Russia. What is your favorite, Scott? What is Scott's favorite Police Academy movie?
I'm gonna say 3.
Which one's that?
It's
4 is Citizens on Parole. Parole.
Yeah. 3 is Back to Training, which is you take the bad guy from 2, which was Bobcat.
Wait.
Yeah,
he's so fucking good, man.
And
he's
then you put him
good
as the cop, right? And then half the time he's like, he's like training as the cop, and people think he's still like the leader of the gang, and he like comes up to them, and they think they're getting robbed, and he's like, oh, okay, like he just because.
But he does it in that high-pitched Bobcat Goldthwait kind of voice. You know what I mean? Like he's got that fucking crazy energy and that really distinct voice, right? Like Bobcat Goldthwait is fantastic. He's also really good in Blow, just as a bit of a side note or whatever. So, okay,
yeah,
so
I'd say that one.
When I'll be honest, I haven't probably watched this movie since I didn't watch it in 84 because I wouldn't have been the appropriate age to watch it. I probably watched it later in the 80s. I'm not going to give any age away as I don't do. I'm 35 to 45 as an actor. But I just watched it for the podcast. Have you watched it like other than for this show? Did you watch it beforehand?
Like years and years ago, right?
Okay,
like,
so we're kind of on the same.
Yeah, like probably like when the DVD release or something like that, when it came out like that way as a set kind of thing. I think I bought them all. I can't remember because I don't have my DVDs or Blu-rays anymore. But yeah, like for me, this was like I think I was 9 or 10 when I watched this, and this was when like obviously home video when it came out, and then it would have been right around when the third one came out. So that's probably why that's my favorite one, because I watched the third first. But yeah, this was like my little gateway film to like all 80s, early 90s sex comedies like Hamburger the movie, Revenge of the Nerds, Ski School, right? Once it got to this, because this was the only one in the series that was rated R.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything else went PG-13 and then PG. But yeah, like once I got to this one, it became like my little gateway to, adolescent boy sex comedies.
So did it stand up?
I did like this is definitely considered a cult classic. And I was looking at
100%.
I was looking at some of the reviews you would say or comments on the movie on like IMDb, and people are like, oh, still like laugh out loud funny still. I didn't laugh at all. Like there's there
was definitely times that I laughed.
Yeah, like I shouldn't say that.
It was more
like,
chuckle. I would say I chuckled,
yes.
right? Like, where'd you get that gun, son? My mom gave it to me. And I remember that as a kid being like this fucking hilariously. He's got the like 44 Magnum. He's just like, that's Tackleberry, right? Played by David Graff. And I'm just being like, that was so funny. And I still chuckle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like chuckle that the blue oyster scene kind of still makes me laugh.
Let's be honest, like there was an entire generation of kids that was like synonymous with like
homosexuals. It's like
yeah,
it's like no, it's like yeah, that was the thing. This was probably the first film, like 9 and 10, like where I saw like a homosexual club, like a gay bar.
I believe we call that same sex nowadays, or
yeah, whatever. Like I'm not being derogatory or whatever, but I'm like watching it now, I'm like, why are they all dressed up like the fucking Village People and not even like all the Village People? I'm like, there's no way they would all dress up like that, right?
Except that it's a leather bar. It's a leather bar. That's literally their kink. So
are you sure?
Yeah, I'm a fucking 100% sure that is a leather bar because they are just dressed like leather men. You know what I mean?
But
I mean, go watch Cruising with Al Pacino. You'll understand what I'm talking about.
Okay. But yeah, like watching it now, I'm just like, it's just, I won't say you can't get away with it now, but I'm like, yeah, there would be a lot of.
No, you can say that. You can say you cannot get away with that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in that movie. There's a lot of like sexist and there's like some racial statements that I'm not going to make on this podcast that basically is what got Hightower to go after what's his head there in the car and like rip the car apart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he flips it over actually.
Yeah, he flips it over, but they're also when where they're in roll call or whatever, right? When they started, and that guy said the racist slur too, and then he was standing right next to Hightower, and he was like, "Well, that's a good thing," because he realized like how big Hightower.
Oh yes, yeah. Yeah.
Right, and I'll just say this: like in terms of women's bathrooms and showers, they really need to redesign this academy. Like
because it's like on the like, it's not even the main floor; it's like the subfloor. And the window
with a window with no frosting, wide open, that stares right into the stalls with a ledge right beside it, so people can literally just hang out, right?
So I'm gonna jump on the CanCon right away. So it was filmed in Toronto. The academy, the quote unquote academy where it takes place, is currently the Lakeshore campus of Humber College, which used to be like the Etobicoke Psychiatric Hospital or whatever. So. It was all filmed in Toronto. All the like kind of like city scenes and stuff are shot around the GTA. So yeah, a little bit of Maple content to start us off. We've got actually a bit of CanCon in this film. So
is that what you're calling it now?
Okay, well, it's technically. I mean, the CRTC here in Canada calls anytime you have Canadian content CanCon, but I mean, I can call it Maple. I can call it whatever you want. You know what I mean? We can get crazy. It's our podcast. We can do whatever we want. And it's the summer and we're drinking now. Yeah. So
I was gonna say you're the only one that brings up all the Canadian content. So I'm like, is that what you're calling it?
So
I like calling it Kris time.
So this is directed by Hugh Wilson. He's
his first movie, right? This was his first
film as a director. Well, actually, yeah, it's his first film. So I actually did a little bit of background on him. So he's the show. You probably don't know this show, but there's a classic 70s show called WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yeah, the radio station. The one of the main guys. He's in part 2. He's Lassard's brother.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even George Gaines, who plays Commandant Lassard, I think was in one episode. But the director is the original showrunner from WKRP in Cincinnati. And he was able to actually kind of like leverage that success into the fact that he has like writing credits on this. He was able to direct and he has writing credits, which I'm going to talk about later on, because there was a lot of back and forth. So technically this is written by Neil Israel and
Pat Poffit or something.
Thanks, yeah, Pat Poff. But Hugh Wilson also shares writing credits with Hugh Wilson trying to kind of like clean it up. And the other two, actually, including the producer, Molansky, trying to like dirty it up, like almost in the vein of Porky's. And I'm using Porky's as a reference for a particular reason, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. So
the nudity. Yeah, but that's why I normally like.
Well, the nudity.
When I do my intro, I usually say like written by. But with this, I'm like, there's way too many fucking names to try to say like all the people that apparently are getting credit on this film. That's why I was like, I'm just skipping it and just going to the director.
Well, the reason I reference Porky's is actually not just the nudity, but also the fact that Kim Cattrall is in Porky's, and Porky's, up until My Big Fat Greek Wedding, was the highest grossing Canadian film, because there's like this weird, the producer is Canadian, or it was designated as a Canadian film, but it's got like $111 million box office. And like I said, up until My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Porky's for like decades was the highest grossing Canadian film. So that's it. Like, you got nothing to say about that, or what?
I'm saying Porky's is a fucking good movie, right?
It is a good movie. It's actually super fantastic, and you should definitely go watch it if you haven't. Same with Meatballs. Meatballs is another like one of the top highest grossing Canadian films with Bill Murray, right? So I mean, we do well with, I mean, if you think about it, our Big Fat Greek Wedding is also like, Canada does well with the comedies, man. We're funny people. We say a boot and we say sorry a lot, and we make good comedies. So
there you go. Schitt's Creek now. That's all the.
Yeah, Kim's Convenience, Schitt's Creek, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things I noticed, actually, so before I move on to like cast, so the editor of this is Zach Stannenberg, which I'm like, I mean, the editing was fine. Zach goes on and becomes the editor of the fucking Matrix trilogy. He's like an action editor now. But just think of like the Matrix and like how crazy the editing is. Like obviously the special effects, but like all these like crazy shots back and forth, and this guy early in his career is doing stuff like Simple, Police Academy. You know what I mean? I just thought that was a bit interesting.
You got to start somewhere, right? Like you got to start with this to get to there, right?
This is absolutely true. Same with the DOP. Like the DOP is Michael Margulis or something like that. So he had some really like actually artistic credits with a film called Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, which is very, very reminiscent of like Tarantino in Grindhouse when he does Death Proof, like fast cars and loose women kind of thing. Also, he worked with what?
That's your fucking takeaway of Death Proof? Fast cars and loose.
Yeah, but it's that like 70s B movie, like drive-in kind of thing. Like I said, like fast cars, loose women, and rock and roll. But he also worked on like a kind of a really important indie. I wouldn't even call it indie, but like film festival kind of film with Nick Cassavetes called Minnie and Mowasovic. Minnie and Mo Smoth.
Let's just cut that out. I can't just say Minnie and some Greek word.
It's actually Polish. I'm pretty sure it's Polish. But yeah, I mean, he was the DOP on this, but he'd been like a long running DOP before that. But again, like the cinematography in this film is not important at all. Like, you know what I mean? It's very, very simple.
Yeah, it is, but it's still well done, right? Like Like
It's
I can
fine.
see why.
Like I'm not watching this
movie.
to like fucking take filmmaking notes. I'll tell you that right now.
Actually,
Well,
sometimes.
not from cinematography.
But listen, like I'm sure you're gonna. You said the next thing you wanted to talk about was the casting, right?
Sure.
So you have Steve Guttenberg, who during this time was the busiest fucking actor.
No, it was after this time. It was after this time he
It
became
was
the busiest.
this started it.
It
This movie
started it, but
started
he wasn't the busiest during this period. This is the big stepping stone for Steve
Yeah.
Guttenberg, right?
But that's the thing. We went like, well, I know my childhood, but went almost a decade without like with Steve Guttenberg in
Everything.
yeah. Yeah, like fucking
So
everything.
I've got Police Academy 1 through 4.
Mhm.
3 Men and a Baby 1 and 2.
That was his
Cocoon,
highest grossing film ever. Was
1 and
3 Men
2.
and a Baby.
Fucking Short Circuit. And actually, I put a special note in because I know how much you like the fucking wank your fucking penis. He was also in Ballers, the TV show on HBO.
Yes, he was.
And I put Scott's favorite show.
Ballers? Yeah, he was in Ballers.
It's
Ballers
also
was
your favorite show, is it not?
Yeah, but it's up there, but yeah, he was good. He was
Scott,
season
Hard
3.
as the Rock for Ballers.
Oh
Sounds like
my
a
God.
porn title.
That does sound like a porn title. Listen, there's a reason why he's number 1 to like for Loving America or whatever the fuck he just got on People's Choice or People Magazine. Right? Everybody loves The Rock. No, that's like a story. I guess they're making a TV show out of it. I was gonna say I can't wait for that like documentary film, right? The $7 documentary, but I'm like, I guess there is the Young Rock TV show now, so you can just watch that.
This is true. So, okay, I want to talk. I got this crazy information on Kim Cattrall. So Kim Cattrall, as we've already talked about, was in Porky's. She was in Big Trouble in Little China. But let's be honest. Everybody knows her as Samantha Jones in Sex and the City. She's also actually in 2 really great TV shows called Sensitive Skin, which is a take on like a BBC show. Actually, it's a New Zealand show. And that's a BBC show. And then Filthy Rich is a take on a New Zealand film. This is what I found amazing about Kim Cattrall. So Kim Cattrall was born in England. This is my second piece of CanCon, which feeds into my third. Born in England, moves to BC, lives there till she's about 11, goes back to England, does like theater school, yada, yada, yada. But for Canadians out there, check this out. Kim Cattrall dated Pierre Elliott Trudeau. So for Americans, that's our current prime minister's dad. 60 Minutes in 2016 was showing a black and white photo of Kim Cattrall and Pierre Elliott Trudeau and thought that it was Justin Trudeau's mom, Margaret, in the photo because they're both so fucking young. I pulled up this photo and you got this black and white photo. So Kim Cattrall is like a bombshell, especially when she was young. She was super pretty. Fucking Pierre Elliott Trudeau always looks like a balding fucking old man. And he's always like rocking the fucking ladies. You know what I mean? So I was like, what? And Kim Cattrall's tweet after this was like, hey, she actually laughed about it. She's like, oh, my son is supposedly the Prime Minister of Canada. That's fantastic. You know what I mean? So I was like, that is fucking crazy. Like she dated our current Prime Minister's dad. And she's like 62. Like, so she would have been young.
Listen, first, I don't give a shit who she dated. Second, out of your lists of fucking movies, how did you miss Mannequin that she starred in? And
I can't put them all on there.
And fucking Star Wars fucking 6, The Undiscovered Country. How did you miss those 2?
Wait, sorry. I thought she was. Did you say Star Wars: The Undiscovered Country?
Yeah, part 6. She is the Vulcan.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, you're right. She is. That's like later. Like, I just thought the intrigue with the political intrigue was more enjoyable, and like Mannequin is not exactly like a box office fucking breaking film.
It was enough to make a fucking sequel.
Touche.
With Christy Swanson and the guy from Weekend at Bernie's. Or was the Weekend at Bernie's guy in this one? Fuck, I don't know.
I'm not sure. There was a lot of people in this, and I only covered kind of the big people. So like Bubba Smith, who plays Hightower, who's fucking dead. He died at 66 at age in 2011. But this guy, I was like, I'm looking at this guy. I'm like, this guy was a pro fucking athlete at some point. So he's a former NFL defensive end for the Baltimore Colts, the Oakland Raiders, and the Houston Oilers. He played in Super Bowl 3 and 5, winning 5. Obviously, he was in Police Academy 1 through 6. Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with chronic traumatic encephalitis or encephaly, which is basically like fucking.
You need to stop with these fucking like long ass words. Like we're not edited, and you just keep on trying to. You're trying to it's like watch. Yeah, it's like trying to watch
he
like
was
an
diagnosed
episode
with
of
CTE.
ER where George Clooney doesn't get a second take, right? Like, fuck it, we're just gonna make up words now.
Anyway, he's fucking dead. He was found dead at 66.
Like, you're so insensitive now. Well, he's fucking dead.
There's a lot of dead people. I mean, when I was doing my notes, there's a lot of fucking dead people from this movie, man.
When you watch the film, a lot of them do look like they're already at like the later years of their lives. No, so yes.
No, like people.
This movie's 40 years old.
Buddy, okay, Dave Graff, who played Tackleberry, who as a kid was my favorite fucking character. Not a surprise I joined the military. So he was in all 7 Police Academy movies. He was also in Guarding Test, which was also written by Hugh Wilson. He died of a heart attack in 2021 or in 21 at 50. He's fucking dead too. Boom. So 50, we got 66. That's 2. I've got 2 other people on my fucking list that are dead from this movie. Steve Guttenberg, don't worry, is still fucking happily alive.
He is. It's funny, like watching this now, I'm surprised that they actually haven't gone the Cobra Kai route and just redo this as like a series.
Oh,
right?
You don't think there's some fucking person out there right now, possibly listening to this podcast, going, I want to do that? Because it would work. You could actually just revamp the whole fucking series.
I don't even think you have to revamp it. I think you go literally Cobra Kai, where it's like a continuation of the movies, but you have technically, you bring Guttenberg back. He's
Mahoney,
now he's now the commandant, but you do it reverse, where he's very politically incorrect. You
but
still have
all the
him.
Candidates are
right, and it's him trying to do.
Okay, you heard it here first. Fucking yet again. How You Like That Movie is putting out great screenwriting fucking material.
Well, if it gets made, we now have proof when this was written, when this was recorded, and just be like, hey, we now have story credit, just like everybody else in this fucking movie.
So, I mean, I understand why there was like a bazillion episodes, I understand why this became a big series. So this thing was shot on a $4.5 million budget, and it grossed $150 million in the theater. Imagine going to watch this movie in the theater, like people seeing it that many times to gross $150 million at the box office. I mean, the whole franchise had roughly an $80 million budget and has made, and I couldn't get exact numbers, but over $500 million. This is again like those horror movies that Blumhouse puts out. You know what I mean? Like make them for cheap.
So you mean everything I said at the beginning?
Yes.
Like do you even fucking listen when I talk?
Come on, we know that I don't listen to you.
Okay, perfect. Give me another medical word.
No. Tune in next week to hear Kris try and say words that most people can pronounce.
I know, all for fucking July. I'm just gonna pick medical dramas. Medical dramas and medical fucking comedies one by one. I'll be like,
EKG stands for fucking EKG. That's where we're gonna stop. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I mean, so probably what did you have a favorite character growing up like with this film?
Mine
was it Mahoney or
no, mine was Tackleberry as well.
Tackleberry's fucking dope, man.
Yeah, I went Tackleberry, and then LeVar Jones was like Michael Winslow. He was my second.
Of 10,000 voices.
Yeah, like the whole like rewatching this movie, because it always nagged me after watching this, but is at no point did he ever volunteer to be in this police academy. Like Mahoney just dragged him.
That's so true.
Right? He was
He didn't even know because Mahoney's in the fucking meeting and he's like, because
He's my
refers to
doctor.
himself as Monsignor Doctor. So when he's like, oh, he's my medical professional, you gotta bring that guy, right?
Yeah. And then even when he gets there, he's like, where the fuck are we? Like, he's like, yeah, just play that stereo. Just keep on going, right?
I love that stereo. I'm like, nothing says early 80s like a fucking boombox the size of a Buick, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But and then like, but my all-time favorite is Bobcat's character, Zed.
Okay, go away. Yeah.
Yeah, he was my favorite, like in the franchise, but he's not in this film, unfortunately.
He is not.
Now, did you have a favorite scene?
In this one, I thought about this because I thought we would like prep for it or whatever, and it's like, honestly,
it is a question we ask usually every episode.
So I mean, the horse and the ass is always great. The blowjob scene, I forgot how great that was. Just like I know he's not giving a PowerPoint, but in today's like kind of like lexicon, it would be a PowerPoint, and you can see him kind of like, oh, as he's getting blown in the, but then he thinks that it's Mahoney that got him off, you know what I mean? Which I thought was great.
That was my, like, in this film, that was my favorite scene. It wasn't the blowjob scene, it was the after with him and Harris. He's like, what are you going to do with Mahoney? Well, what did he do? What did he do? He did bad things. To who?
But he does it with that kind of British. He did bad things. You know what I mean?
He's like, to who? To who did he do it? He's like, like he just like can't say what happened because he's like torn. He's like, I think
did bad, but he
felt, yeah, it felt good. And then when they like went back to it at the end, right? That's what it kind of puts that scene where the commandant, before he goes to the oh my god, what are those things called now? The podium. You see him bending down looking.
They were always
in,
called
right?
podiums, by the way.
That's
not a new term that came out in like 2021.
Yeah, but you see him squirt down and look at the bottom, right? Like you kind of like that he's scared, but then all of a sudden you're like, she's down there. So I'm like, so it's like he's like scooting down and just being like, oh, now we're gonna get Mahoney back, kind of thing. But that, like, I like how it went full circle on that little gag.
So would you watch it again?
Probably not.
Yeah, it was good. I honestly, when I was watching Steve Guttenberg, I was like, he kind of reminded me, and I get why he kind of like he becomes kind of like a comedic leading man, but he reminded me the way he delivers his comedy is almost like a poor man's Bill Murray. Like the way his inflection is and like the pauses that he takes and the way he talks. And I'm like, obviously I'm emphasizing that right now. And I was watching it. I'm like, oh, like you kind of are doing a bit of a Bill Murray shtick right now. That's how I felt watching him. I mean, he did really well with this. Like, I mean, he was in everything, including the series. Like, it's kind of his.
No, he wasn't in the series.
I think he did like an episode where he shows up.
I don't think he did.
Okay, maybe you're right.
I think he was done after 4, right? Like after the fourth,
you know what?
one,
You're right.
Never
he only
came
did
back.
4.
Yeah,
because like you said, he was super busy doing like he was a big deal in the late 80s, early 90s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he definitely was. Now we can get him on Cameo, which
we could get him on Cameo. We should we should totally start getting people on Cameo and then putting it into our podcast. That'd be fucking dope.
I said that like literally a fucking month ago.
Yeah,
like...
but I'm saying it now. That means it has more gravitas. Come on, I'm the fucking creative element around here.
Yeah, okay. But the one thing I will say, like in terms of if we're going back to Kim Cattrall, like her character had no fucking point in this film. Like not.
Well, she was the love interest. I wouldn't even call it love interest.
She was.
No. Well, it's between her and I don't have the actor's name. Between her and the like drill instructor, the blonde.
Oh, Sergeant Callahan.
Yeah. But you're like Kim Cattrall basically plays like upper crust girl, makes it with like lead of show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like if you think about it, like in terms of her scenes, you see her like, yeah, she's like the rich girl that, you know, trying to get back at her parents for being a cop.
But I mean, I guess that's why she isn't in any other Police Academy movies. You know what I mean?
Well, that's normally how every sequel goes.
Except for the rest of the fucking cast.
Yeah, but she was the love interest, right? Like no love interest makes it to the second movie ever.
That's true. That is true.
Like, how many girlfriends has Batman had? Like, why didn't Kim Basinger come back for Batman Returns? Why didn't Katie Holmes come back for?
Yeah, but Katie Holmes's character was in the second Batman. I felt like, and I mean, we could dig into that. We're not going to do it on the show if we talk about Batman, but like the fact that Gyllenhaal replaces Katie Holmes playing the same fucking role, that was weird. You know what I mean? Everybody else is the same, but that was fucking weird. Okay.
Yeah, it's like Don Cheadle and Terrence Howard.
Would you, well, we know why that happened, and we can talk about that if we ever do Iron Man. Would you recommend this movie? If so, who to?
See, that's the thing. I think it is a cult. Like, this is 100% like a cult film that I think most people have either stumbled onto or has sought out, right? Just by word of mouth. So, but that, like, I cannot wrap my head on who I would recommend it to, right?
Okay.
Like.
So
you got anything?
Yeah. Okay. So the writers on this, as I've said before, are Neil Israel and Pat Prophet. And so between the two of them, they did Bachelor Party, Look Who's Talking To, but more importantly, they did Bachelor Party, Naked Gun 1 through 3, Hot Shots.
Do you want to repeat yourself?
What?
You literally said, for a
reason. I'm segueing. I'm segueing.
Wait. You said these writers wrote Bachelor Party and then whatever the second film was, and then you said more importantly they did Bachelor Party and then another.
Yeah, so I'm going.
Is Bachelor Party good or more important? Which one is Bachelor Party?
I'm gonna fucking explain this if you would let me talk. Anyway, so Neil Israel and Pat Prophet, most importantly though, they did a lot of films, but they did Bachelor Party together. They did Naked Gun 1 and 3, Hot Shots 1 through 2, and Scary Movie 3 through 5. So if you like that kind of comedy, if you're going back to like Airplane and Naked Gun and any of those types of films, yeah, this is like, if you're a young person and you like that style of comedy, that slapstick comedy, that raunchy comedy, I would say take that lineage all the way back to Porky's, even further if you really want to get critical. If you like that kind of comedy, then fucking Police Academy is 100% in that wheelhouse. That is part of that lineage. And I think you brought up a really good point. This is one of these films that becomes like a cult legacy. It becomes this franchise. I mean, do we really have a franchise other than Aliens, because the franchise actually spans multiple time? This film has a franchise that's like bang, 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 bang. I mean, even Karate Kid is what, 3, 4 comes later. Even Star Wars, like this is a good run. I mean, hey, if you guys have better examples of long running franchises before Police Academy, you know, fucking hit us up on Twitter.
Well, I wouldn't know about, well, if you're going before, you're gonna go James Bond.
James Bond is always like kind of its own category, right? Because like they switch out actors. It's not necessarily the same storyline. It's like one character. I always put James Bond like on a shelf with a martini and a hot woman and some cigarettes.
So yeah, so if you're going nowadays,
basically Don Draper gets put on a shelf.
Yeah, so if you're going nowadays, I would say equivalent would be Saw, Paranormal Activity, or Mission Impossible.
Sure, yeah, 100%. But that's all after the fact.
American Pie could have kept it. Well, technically, they still have kept it going because there was a 100 fucking direct-to-DVD things with American Pie on it.
Do we count direct to DVD or direct to POV or anything like that? Do we count? Like, I don't normally count that. To me, it's like theatrical release. I mean, that might change after COVID because, you know, we're all going to be mutants.
That's the thing, right?
Theater, so
that's the thing, right? Like now, like, did you see that it's the one thing I'm actually fucking looking forward in July, and I wish I mentioned it in our podcast, was that trailer for the Netflix Fear Street, the horror trilogy, that they're literally releasing part 1.
Is that the meta one that's supposed to be super meta?
I don't know. It's like 3, I guess it's based on some R.L. Stine novels, but literally it's 3 horror films, and they're releasing part 1 one week, part 2 the other week, and part 3 the other week. But you get the trilogy within the month.
Oh, but it's not released all at once like a typical binge-worthy kind of TV show.
No, because it's films. Yeah, it's films.
Interesting.
It's not show. Yeah, so it's literally 1 week is one release, the next week is the next, and the last one's on the 3rd. Which, like, to me, that's going to, if this works, that's going to revolutionize the whole, like, if you think people are making fucking movies for sequels now, just imagine before it gets released, the sequel's already filmed.
Yeah. I mean, COVID's changing a lot of things. I mean, I don't have anything else to say about Police Academy other than, I mean, if you like comedy, if you like slapstick comedy, check it out. If you haven't already, if you're not, old like us motherfuckers. If you're in here in Ontario, Canada, in the KW area, try and show some love to our favorite cinemas in the local area, which is Princess Cinema and the Apollo Theater. Apollo right now is doing a little thing where you buy some raffle tickets and you can win a lifetime membership to their shows. We bought some. We put our money where our mouth is. We bought some fucking stuff. So try and beat us, man. Do the thing. Support local cinema. That's all for me. Scott, take us away.
And that is our rant for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. You can also reach us and interact with us on social media at howdoyoulikethat1, or email us at howdoyoulikethatmovie@gmail.com.
All right, boys, you are in so much crap.
Why? What would you do?
Star Trek versus Star Wars. Star Wars fans think they're the best franchise. Star Trek fans know they are.
You're
going to get bad tweets out your ass.
There it is.
We are going to get eviscerated by the nerd coalition on the internet. We managed to actually, or I believe by we, I mean me, managed to actually upset 2 fundamentally opposed nerd coalitions against us.
Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.